Welcome back. This is principle number 11 in our series of principles to adopt when using problem-based learning in the classroom, which we have developed as part of the EU Erasmus-funded Engininte scheme, which aims to help engineers become more employable. Now, principle number 11 just says, consider assessment. And one of the things that I said earlier on in our meeting was that a sort of working axiom of mine is that assessment is the enemy of knowledge. Well, actually, it's the enemy of learning. Now, what did you think about that?
Assessment, well, there are different kinds of assessment.
Sure.
But the traditional sort of end-of-term exam, how far did we get? The risk is that learning becomes not so important, and the important thing is to reach the assessment criteria. So it becomes a kind of what do you call it, Arbeitsgeber, the employer. I mean, you're working for the assessment system instead of working for your own learning.
Yes.
And since PBL is about students creating their own learning process, then this assessment is sort of lurking in the distance and a kind of threat, because I don't just want to become clever, I also want to have good marks and all that. So that's a problem. But then if you think about sort of assessment, we have this basic distinction, which is a technical distinction, talking about summative, which is how good are you now at the end of the process, and then formative, which can also be self-administered, self-assessment, and this is what is done through reflection. That you say, well, how did it go? Where did I move according to my own learning wishes? Was I good? Were we good? Was I good? How can I improve, and so on? And you put this in instead of just waiting for somebody else to say, are you good or not?
So how would you respond to somebody who is nevertheless concerned about giving their students, and often realistically they do have to, give them some sort of mark for the class? What are the options open to us?
I can tell you that when I'm working in a traditional and still a PBL, but also a system with marks, I sometimes say to the student, this thing you're now pondering seems to be very important for you. I think it may be too big for you to actually reach your result, which can be presented and be marked very well. So you have a kind of choice. And if the student chooses and say, well, I'm afraid of going into this wilderness, I'm not sure I can handle it, well, then the student can go to the summative, but have the students think about what is important to us, how should we use our resources, because, I mean, you shouldn't force them into some wild spree on something that they can't handle anyway, but all the time, I mean, this is negotiation also, and this is part of the whole of middles, that you talk to them about, I see these options, how do you feel, we have so much time left, and what are your preferences?
So you could actually negotiate with them what might be an appropriate way of assessing.
That too.
So you can say, well, look, at the end, we need to show that you have made some progress on this. So decide now, what would be a reasonable way of checking?
And I'll go even further and say that very often I start processes like this by saying to the students, but I have certain evaluation criteria because I know the field is that way. I want you, according to the wishes of each and every one of you.
Yeah, coffee machine's going, it's okay.
Yeah, to set up evaluation criteria so that you say, if I am able to this, and that, then I feel quite proud of myself. So there may be, and these evaluation or assessment criteria made by students may differ along the way. I mean, they may find out new things. I thought this was important.
Yeah.
Now I understand that for me this is a lot more important. But I mean, the important thing is to make assessment the positive driver of the process instead of this threat that is foreign to me and I have to satisfy certain criteria which aren't mine.
So there you have it, principle number 11. Consider assessment, and you've heard some ideas there for how you can do that. Stay tuned for our final principle, number 12, coming up next.